Let's dive straight into one of the most radical ontological abstractions in ancient secular literature, the Democritian cosmology. What we're doing here is effectively severing Hellenic philosophy from those comfortable, perceptible paradigms we're so used to, establishing a strictly quantitative, mechanical architecture of reality. We are literally stripping away the sensory world entirely to confront the structural, bare-bones foundation of the cosmos.
To do this explainer navigates 6 specific areas. We'll start with the introduction and thematic thesis, move into the historical and cultural context, analyze the literary composition and style, unpack the ethical and philosophical framework, track the dialectical progression, and wrap up with transmission and enduring legacy.
So Part 1, Introduction and Thematic Thesis.
The crucial starting point in establishing this cosmology begins with a foundational thesis. Reality is not a spectrum, it's an absolute binary. The universe is constructed exclusively of an infinite void and eternal, indivisible substances. There's zero middle ground here. Now, to grasp the severity of this shift, you have to contrast it with the earlier Milesian thinkers, predecessors who sought fundamental reality in tangible, qualitative elements like water, air, or fire. Democritus violently fractures that tradition. His mechanical model explicitly resolves the paralyzing Eleatic paradox of change and permanence. How? By locating absolute immutability strictly within microscopic, discrete entities, while attributing all the perceptible flux we see around us to their macroscopic, temporary aggregations.
The literature establishes a severe duality. On one side, we have the on, the thing, the solid, the being. On the exact opposite side, the kanon, the infinite, the nothing, the place. This materialist thesis creates an immediate, frankly terrifying epistemological crisis. Think about it. Our human sensory apparatuses are fundamentally alienated from objective truth. We're totally blind to the microscopic collisions happening within this vacuum.
Part 2. Historical and cultural context.
The profound marginalization of this structuralist model didn't emerge from the dominant Socratic or sophistic circles of the ancient polis. Instead, it came from a position of deliberate obscurity. The text actually proudly records this peripheral status, stating, "Ithongar es Athinas kai utis me egno." Now, arriving in Athens unrecognized wasn't some circumstantial failure. It was a highly strategic advantage. It permitted the construction of a comprehensive physical architecture, completely unfettered by the prevailing intellectual orthodoxies of the Mediterranean capital.
By operating out in this peripheral geopolitical space, the resulting literature actively bypassed the politically charged, human-centric debates on civic virtue that totally obsessed Athens at the time. This deliberate intellectual isolation is exactly what birthed the ancient world's most advanced structuralist model, completely unpolluted by subjective societal conventions.
Part 3. Literary Composition and Style.
This conceptual rigor completely dictates the literary composition and style of the work. The structural architecture of the Democritian system entirely eschews poetic ambiguity, relying instead on severe axiomatic prose defined by absolute binary oppositions. Central to this axiomatic prose is the definition of the atomos. This indivisible, eternal substance lacks any internal qualitative differences, no color, no temperature. Instead, it possesses specific morphological variations. It can be hooked, concave, convex, or uneven. Definitional precision is paramount here because these microscopic entities dictate all macrocosmic diversity purely through physical geometric interaction.
The text utilizes a highly clinical stylistic vocabulary, heavily dominated by verbs of collision and entanglement. The atomos remains strictly contiguous, bound solely by interlocking physical shapes. In fact, the text ruthlessly dismisses the ontological fusion of two distinct entities into a single nature as utterly silly. It meticulously tracks only temporary atomic aggregation and its inevitable environmental dissolution.
Part 4. Ethical and Philosophical Framework.
The physical system we've just outlined necessitates a radical epistemological bifurcation, basically requiring a rigorous methodological hierarchy to even access the truth. Over in the Treatise on Ideas, we find the ultimate articulation of this split. Nomo euklio, nomo pikron, nomo thermon, nomo pslachron, nomo chri, ete de atoma kai kanon. By convention sweet, bitter, hot, cold, and color. In reality, atoms and void. Sensory qualities are definitively relegated to subjective conventions. They're just secondary effects born from the temporary physical changing of atomic shapes colliding against our bodies.
Because human perception only interacts with these secondary effects, sensory data is categorized strictly as scotii, or dark knowledge. Our five sensory faculties are deemed inherently flawed, completely incapable of discerning the microscopic void or atomic structure. This articulates an extreme structural alienation from objective truth experienced by human biological perception.
So to bridge this gap, the system demands gnesia, or genuine knowledge. This is located entirely within the reasoning faculty of the soul. When sensory resolution fails to see more finely, it's only this disciplined, rigorous skepticism and intellect that possesses the reliable power to pierce through convention and access the objective mechanics of genuine reality beneath.
Part 5. Dialectical progression.
To lock down this epistemological hierarchy, the text must build a dialectical destruction of absolute relativism. Specifically, it targets the Protagorean assertion that every human impression holds equal objective truth. The exact logical mechanism deployed to neutralize this total subjective relativism is the peritropy, the reversal argument. It's a precise dialectical maneuver serving as an impenetrable logical shield for atomist epistemology, basically ensuring that subjective skepticism doesn't collapse into total nihilism.
Let's mechanically deconstruct this argument. It's fascinating. Step 1. The relativist premise asserts that every single impression is true. Step 2. Therefore, the contrary impression, the statement that not every impression is true, must simultaneously be accepted by the relativist as valid. Step 3. The original premise is instantly logically invalidated by its own metric. Forcing the relativist to accept their own refutation perfectly secures the objective validity of genuine reasoning. By effectively neutralizing absolute relativism through the peritropy, the text transitions from a posture of defensive skepticism to an authoritative assertion. The mechanical reality of the void is established as objectively verifiable by the intellect, which perfectly sets the stage for the system's ultimate application.
Part 6. Transmission and Enduring Legacy.
The culmination of this immense philosophical edifice, the transmission of this quantitative physical model, doesn't just end in abstract science. It demands a profound ethical application concerning the governance of the human vessel. The literature anchors this in a brilliant metaphorical courtroom dynamic, known as the decay, a hypothetical trial. Framed strictly as a literary and philosophical device within the source text, the physical body actually sues the reasoning soul, holding the intellect legally accountable for the lifelong pains and sufferings it has physically endured.
The specific allegations brought forward in this trial are severe. The body charges the soul with negligence that destroys physical integrity, drunkenness that dissipates health, and ruinous pursuits that ravage the flesh. These represent the soul's ambitious, irrational distractions, its absolute failure to utilize its analytical capacity to see more finely.
The definitive verdict of the text brands the soul as a careless user, while the physical body is relegated to the status of a mere tool or utensil. This establishes an absolute intellectual failure. Think about it. If the soul possesses the power of genuine knowledge, failing to manage the physical body with mechanical precision is a fundamental betrayal of reason itself.
Which brings us to the ethical terminus of the text, leaving us with a staggering provocation to take away from this explainer. If the microscopic, invisible mechanics of the universe demand absolute objective precision to be understood, does your reasoning soul govern its physical vessel with that exact same rigor? It's a compelling challenge that demands we align our internal governance with the severe architecture of the cosmos itself.